What is up, family? You are checked in here and watching this for one of maybe a couple reasons. One is you've already started the Super Bowl party and you just could not make it to the family meeting. Two, maybe you made it to the family meeting and you were eating pizza at the time and so you missed some of it. But maybe you just needed to refresh yourself on what exactly we talked about in our family meeting. But regardless of the reason, welcome to our digital family meeting.
Hey guys, Josh here. We have navigated so many hard things together as a community, beginning launching this church over 6 years ago on January the 1st. We'll never, ever do that again. Together we have launched digitally in the middle of a global pandemic with a historical recession in our economy. And Jesus continued to do what Jesus has done best. And for so many of us, it was so hard. And you know that well. For so many of our staff, it was hard. For Jess and I and our family, it was really hard. And that's okay. And over the course of this period of time, we've seen God do some incredible things, even in our lives. God's word says that consider it pure joy whenever we're going through stuff that does not feel fun. The testing of our faith produce perseverance. Perseverance finishes its work in us so that we'll be mature, complete, not lacking anything. And gratefully, we have seen God do some unbelievable things, and we celebrate that. But together recently, Jess and I have sensed that our time and the season for us being on this team at Movement was coming to a close, coming to a transition. Now, you've heard me say this a million times if you've been with us for any time at all, that you can make sure to bury my body in New England, and that is absolutely for sure still a part of the plan. But oftentimes when we make plans, God doesn't really consider those. He has his plans and his will. And for most of my life, I ran from that and resisted it. Not anymore. With that said, God has opened up so many doors, and he hasn't just opened them, he's kicked them wide open for us to continue to help start churches where the church is needed the most. He's been kicking those things down. God is making a way, a really specific and clear way for us and our family to make our next move in this next season, to help start more churches. And the first order of business is we are going to start with a stop. We are going to enter into an extended season and a period of time of rest and refreshment and renewal and sabbatical. And our family is going to be relocating back to Oklahoma. During that time, we are going to lean into Jesus and seek what the future really looks like. All we really know is we're going to help start more churches. We're going to start a church planning organization that is going to be the engine to continue to see more churches being started. And that is going to help us get closer to starting 1,000 churches by 2050. And with that comes a whole lot of emotions, I know. I know it is heavy, and we know that this is hard. But we love you, and we're with you. So here's what we want you to know. Between now and the end of spring, I am going to be transitioning off of the Movement staff team, and you'll continue to see me here over the next several few months, leading, teaching, loving like crazy, and I have absolute max confidence in our staff team and the leadership team that you have been surrounded by throughout beginning with November 6th all the way up into and through this day. And I'm no doubt about it, as we transition from me just being a guy on this team to being a guy who is cheering this team and this community on, more confident now than ever that the one who began this work, it wasn't us, it was Jesus, and we have confidence that he is going to finish its work, and he is going to continue to do what he does through you.
So Josh submitted his resignation last month with a heart to give us as much time as possible to allow us to shape a transition that's best for everyone involved. And so what does that look like? That looks like us knowing that he's going to be around for the next few months, which is a beautiful thing, for conversations and coffee with as many people as possible. And for those of you who know Josh, you know that's going to be quite a lot. And so with that in mind, I, in agreement with our whole staff and leadership team, for our family meeting, have asked Josh to step away and not stick around after the meeting. This is a digital meeting, so we don't have to consider that. But what that looks like for us is giving ourselves a little bit of time to process, giving Josh and Jess and the family a little time to process, and maybe just giving a few days before reaching out. And so if we could ask anything from you humbly, we would ask you to just give a little bit of space to pray and process through this situation before reaching out. And as we interact with it, we're going to have lots of emotions, and that's okay. We know this news is shocking to some, painful to more, and bittersweet to many, and you know, that's okay. That's the way God designed us to love deeply. And when we step into transitional moments and there's sorrow, like, we've got to acknowledge it and be honest with it. And so we don't want his phone to overheat in the next few hours. And so if you guys can help us with that, that would be absolutely amazing. But the next question you might be asking yourself is like, what's next? What's next for Movement? And I'm really glad that you asked that question, even if you asked it and we didn't really hear it. Part of the tension our leadership team has navigated is waiting until we can answer just a few questions along these lines before we announce this to our whole community. As you know, Movement has never really been a community that's title driven. Many of you probably don't know what some of our titles even are, and that's by design. That's the way we wanted it to be. Jesus has the title as our leader, and the rest of us are just guys, just girls on this team. And you hear that every time someone picks up a mic, just a guy on the team, just a girl on the team. That's kind of how we want it. But we do have titles, we do have roles, we do each have responsibilities on staff, and we just don't use those titles as a source of authority. You know, Josh has served under the title of lead pastor and co-planter for the last 7 years. And as our team enters this process of what's next, I'm going to step into the title of lead pastor. Now, you're not going to hear me say that again, probably ever. It's not going to be on the website. It's not going to be on a slide anytime I'm up there. But when there's a decision that needs to be made by a lead pastor, as this leadership team decides what's next for that role, in the interim, I'm going to step into that space, and I'll carry that mantle for decision making from here until that team comes to a conclusion, and we get that process started, executed, and finalized. And so from the beginning, our mission has been to move closer to Jesus and people, and the best way to do that is through the local church. And so we just didn't want to start a church at 27 Depot Street. We wanted to start as many as possible. And our dreams of one day starting a church planting organization look like they're actually going to come to pass, guys, maybe in a little different way than any of us had imagined or dreamed. But again, sometimes God is a little less concerned with our plans than he is with his, and his always seem to turn out better than ours. And so the reality is, this is going to allow us to really prove how much starting churches means to us and how it's just a part of who we are. So practically speaking, another move that our team has made is to extend an offer to Brandon Musselman to enter our staff as a full-time teaching pastor, which will put an end to his residency a little early. And so we're excited about the fact that he has actually accepted that offer. And we know that there are going to be some other conversations that are going to be taking place along the way with his wife, Alexia, and her role on staff here. There are a lot of conversations to still be had. And but we are excited that as Josh transitions out of the role of lead pastor, Brandon is going to transition into a role of teaching pastor to kind of give us some stability as we continue to figure out what's next. And transitions are hard, guys, and that's okay. But our team and our staff, we are fully united in giving everything we've got to make this the best transition the world of local churches has ever seen. And we are off to an incredible start. To God be the glory. So we're going to be following up periodically with some updates on where we are in this process. But if you have any questions, we want you to know that there are a couple different ways you can reach out. Our leadership team is going to be available anytime that we're in this space, 27 Depot Street together. We carve out some space for our leadership team to be available for questions, for prayer, to just have some conversations. And so that's not going to change, but we also want you to know that there is a way that you can reach out anytime, and it's an email address called leadershipteam@move603.com. That's leadershipteam@move603.com. You can send an email, and that's going to go to our team, and it will end up in the hands of somebody who loves deeply, just like Jesus. And so this next season is full of what we have always called miracle space. And we just can't wait to see what God is going to do in this space. So thank you guys for taking the time to watch this, to listen. And we just thank you for continuing to pray that God would help us move closer to people. We need to move closer to Him. We love you guys, and we are so excited for what's next.